Hello, whiskey folk. It's Roy, Aqvavitae, another Thursday night whiskey hangout. Fantastic to welcome you all in, and welcome also if you're watching this on the replay. If you are watching this on the replay, just while everyone else is coming in on the live here, I'll just share with you. I know you've clicked on this and you're looking and you see the duration of this video and you see how long it is. And you're probably wondering, why is this guy continually putting out this long video content? I've had a couple of messages to suggest that very thing. Well, the thing is that it's for the live show. The live just goes as long as the live goes, and live shows tend to be kind of a bit longer, maybe not as long as my live shows, but yeah, they just go as long as they need to go. It's a Thursday night whiskey hangout. We're sitting here sharing whiskey chat. We're sharing some drams. There's usually a general theme to the show, I guess, but that's more for my benefit than anyone else's. And it usually ends on a quiz at the end. So if you want to watch it in chunks, you're very welcome to do that. And I really do appreciate everybody that tunes in live and watches on the replay as well. It's fantastic. So welcome everybody. I can see everybody's pouring in already. It's wonderful to welcome you all again on another Thursday whiskey night. I have been trying very hard to have some dry nights recently, but I've failed a bit miserably. And I think after I enjoy some of the really nice whiskies I've got in front of me tonight, I'm going to take a wee bit of time off and just kind of recharge a bit, just have some time for me to physically recover a wee bit, but mentally recover as well. And I'm not jaded at all. I'm still super enthusiastic about whiskey, but I think I've just had too many on nights recently, and I think it's good to have a few off nights, but that's not going to happen tonight. I'm really excited to open some of these fantastic whiskies that are sitting in front of me just now. Pop out the chat so I can speak to all of you guys and hang out with you. So the theme tonight, I think some of you that follow me in any kind of social media channel, or you perhaps read the description that I updated on this live video today on YouTube, is this kind of concept of samples. And that maybe tonight we could all get together, and indeed we have. I was speaking to some patrons on the pre-live show for a little while, and some of them have openly said, you know, I'm not in a situation where I have anybody to exchange samples with. I haven't got into that yet through social media. I'm not buying samples or whatever. I've just got my regular whiskey here. Well, that's fine. Pour whatever whiskey you want. You don't have to have samples, of course. But what I find is that over the last couple of years, I've started to collect samples and be gifted samples and things like that. And it struck me that people are taking time to put this together for me and to give this to me as a gift, because they're enthusiastic, because they're excited about the whiskey. And shouldn't that then be the case that should be a priority rather than the shiny new bottle I've just spent X amount of pounds on? Should the priority not be to kind of sample that whiskey experience that they've felt compelled to share with me, and maybe give them some thanks and feedback for it? And I realized that in the corner of my cabinet downstairs where I'm collecting these samples together, some of them have actually started to become forgotten about. And what happened this week at the Whiskey Club, and I've not been to this particular night at the Whiskey Club for a while now because of work commitments and things, but I turned up on a regular kind of barrel night at the Bonaccord in Glasgow, and one of the guys handed me a bag with it was Graham. Thank you so much, Graham. You're a superstar. He handed me a bag with 2 samples in it, and fantastic looking samples. A Queen of the Hebrides 18-year-old Lafroig at 50% ABV. And he also, because I'd been whinging on social media about how difficult it was to get a hold of local barley, Springbank, he poured a sample of his very valuable and precious Springbank local barley for me as well. And I was really struck. And I was like, I've exchanged samples with Graham before. Actually, I say that I've only actually given him a sample of a Mellocorn. But I was really struck, as that's really such a cool thing to do. And then as I was leaving the club that night, Bob, another one of my friends from the Whiskey Club, and sometimes Bob tunes in, handed me this. This innocuous little green bottle is 1970s Port Ellen. I was absolutely blown away. So this whole kind of sample thing, this sample dynamic, I just wanted to say, right, do you know what? I need to be taking this sample thing a bit more seriously. We shouldn't be forgetting about these samples. We should be enjoying these. We should be thanking the people that's gone to the trouble of bottling them up. We should be sharing it. We should be talking about it and seeing if we can get enthusiastic as they did. That's the general theme for tonight. And a bit later, I'm going to come on and talk to you about how I went on national BBC radio today in Scotland and embarrassed myself, making a blunderous whiskey mistake. And I'll share that with you a wee bit later. It's just so cringeworthy. It's difficult to talk about, but I'll share it with you guys. Anyway, let's see who's joining us tonight. It's the chat's filling up. It's fantastic. I'm going to make the text a wee bit bigger here so I can read it and speak to you and try and see how many I can catch. And I know that I'm going to miss. I tend to miss a lot of folk. I really do, and I apologise for that. I do try and catch as many of you as I can. I want to hang out with you all. Scotch for Dummies are in. Fantastic. I wonder who that's going to be tonight. He's said, I have to catch the recording as I'm curious to see what Roy thinks of our CWC sample we sent him. Actually, yeah, I'm going to guess that that's Mark that's tuned in tonight. Here it is here right in front of me. This is a creative whiskey company, Islay. They don't want to disclose who the distillery is. I understand that completely, but an anagram of that distillery is Avian Gull. It's on the Condalton Road in Islay. I would love to open that tonight. That could be the PT1 at the end of the show, and I'm going to guess that that's Mark. Fantastic to welcome you in, Mark. Travis is in. That's Let's Drink Whiskey, is Travis Souders. It's fantastic to welcome him in as well. I've just had him in, joining me on the Patreon pre-show as well, as I did Scott, my friend Scott Monroe. Gregor's in, Gregor McQuee. Fantastic to see you back again, Gregor. I've just been asked to show a sweary word from Travis, which is absolutely fine. It's a sweary word that we say in this house all the time. Chris Beaton is in. Fantastic, Chris. Good to see you. Top Whiskies. Welsh Toro. Welsh, I just got a message in from Skype. I was hoping to grab a minute to read that out. I haven't read it yet. I apologise. If it's relevant that I need to read it for tonight, please let me know. Error is in. Fantastic, Error. Good to see you. I didn't pick up... actually asked you for approval to use that excerpt from your message that you sent me this week. If you're okay with that, please let me know, but highlight it to me in the Whiskey Rev so I definitely get this. I would like to read out your message just about how you got into whiskey and things a bit later in the show, if you're okay with that, my friend. Hoagie is in. Hoagie Bear, fantastic to see you in again. Great to welcome you back. I can also see, have also mentioned Top Whiskies. I'm going to guess, of course, that's going to be Ed that's in. Gus is in as well. He was in on the Patreon pre-show. Fantastic to see you. Tony Evans. Tony, welcome in again. Who else do we have? Rolf also was in on the pre-show. Wonderful to have you. Ben Marnick. Fantastic, Ben. Good to see you again. Razvan, good to see you back again. Fantastic to welcome you again. Raster is in. Superb Raster. Always like to see that little icon there. Is that an airplane or a speedboat? It looks like an airplane. I'm going to say it's an airplane. Whiskey Biker is in. Fantastic. Rombout, you're in. Fantastic. Rombout, I've got a Canadian club that I'm going to finish, and I think I might pour a wee bit more of this a bit later, especially if Rob drops in, because this is a fantastic dram here. But when I finish this Canadian club, Rombout, the next sample I'm going to open tonight has been sitting here for a wee bit too long, is this Dutch Den Hoel that you were kind enough to send me, my friend. So that's getting cracked open tonight. Of course, the pressure I'm putting myself under is when you're sitting having a quiet sample at home, you can really take your time. You don't really need to react in any particular way. But if I don't react in any particular way, I guess, I mean, I don't intend to review any of these. I would just want to share them. I just want to drink them. And I'd like you guys, if you're sitting there with a sample and you're pouring a sample and enjoying it, share what you're drinking. And consider, is there somebody that you'd like to shout out and give a thanks for that? Maybe they tune in, maybe they don't. It doesn't matter. It'd just be nice to kind of voice them and just to say, you know, this sample was sent to X. It is a bottle of X, and it was sent by X or whatever. That's the idea. Just to give people a shout out and just celebrate the whole concept of sample exchanges. And I would like to touch on sample exchanges with me a wee bit as well, because I do get a lot of people requesting to exchange samples with me. So I'll touch on that a wee bit later as well. Colourless Blue Things is in. Fantastic to welcome you back again. Whiskey Throttle, Daniel, superb to see you in. Why is he talking so much? Right back at you, Daniel. I don't have a guest again tonight. I found the time zone thing to be trickier than I imagined. And also time runs out, and I realize it gets closer to the date, and I realize that I haven't done anything, I haven't put any thought in. And I come up with the concept of the samples thing literally yesterday for a theme tonight. But to be honest, I get the impression that you guys don't really care whether there's a guest or not. You don't really care what the theme is a lot of the time. What you enjoy about this on a Thursday night or every other Thursday night is just getting together in the fantastic crowd that we have in this chat and just having a kind of whiskey thing. Just a couple of hours ring-fenced on a Thursday night where we can just hang out and sip and talk about whiskey. But you're absolutely right, Daniel. I do talk a lot, and it's becoming more and more apparent. My friend the Whiskey Rev is back on duty tonight after a couple of live streams missing, where he's just not been able to join in. And I've had fantastic support from the community in terms of moderation from Vin, and especially Jason Whiskey Wise, who stepped in when the Whiskey Rev is not available, and it's been really, really appreciated. And I hope to see those guys in a wee bit later as well. Jos Corte is in. Jos, I don't think I've seen your name before. He's saying good evening, everybody, and at Cerise Smith especially. Okay, do we have a Cerise Smith in the chat? I've not seen that name before either. Jos, you're very welcome here. Nice to see you. Everwind, fantastic to see you in again, Everwind. Special thanks to you. You know why. That was a fantastic thing to have happened a week or so ago. Just superb, really superb. A fantastic thing. Great to welcome you in on the live again, Everwind. And if I can share what you sent me, please let me know, because it was quite cool. Dwayne is in as well. Fantastic to see you. You must be back home now. He said, hi, Roy. It was great to meet you a couple of weeks ago in Glasgow. Thanks again for taking time out of your day to come to my airport hotel. Oh, that sounds sinister, doesn't it, Dwayne? So after on Tuesday evening, Dwayne was flying in from Islay before he went out to Ireland. And my wife was good enough to drop me at the hotel quickly so that I could shake hands with Dwayne and share a beer with Dwayne. And I think we had a dram as well, didn't we? I had an Oban, I think. They didn't have much of a selection, did they, Dwayne? But it was nice while you were here in Scotland just to shake your hand and say hello. And also my friend Era is passing close by to me. He's going up to Deanston in a week or so's time. And if there's any way for me to jump in the car and come out and just say hello to people if they're nearby, I'd love to do that from time to time occasionally. But great to see you in, Dwayne. I hope you've got over the jet lag, and I hope you're back home and safe and comfortable. There is a Fritz Schmidt in. Hi, Fritz. This is a new name to me as well. If this is your first time here, you're very, very welcome. And Christopher Malloy is back again, talking about replenishing the liver. Exactly what I was talking about, Christopher. Just to give yourself a chance to kind of reset and recalibrate a wee bit as well. Andy Walker is in saying, hi, Roy. Hi, all. Fantastic, Andy. Good to see you. Malt Chronicles is in. I saw that we were chatting on Instagram, I think, earlier today. It's good to welcome you in here. It's good to see you again. I'm sure I've seen you in here before. I recognize your little icon. Alan Wilson is in. Fantastic to see you, Alan. We scroll down, and I think I've started to catch up. Andrew's in, daydreaming from Australia. You're such a journeyman, Andrew. Thank you very much. Jason Whiskey Wise is in. Good to see you, Jason, my friend. You have moderation duties tonight as well, I guess. I can remove those if you just want to relax and hang out in the chat, because I have the Whiskey Rev to help out tonight as well. Just let me know if you're okay with that. Gillian is here as well. Gillian, you joined me on the pre-chat. Good to see you in, Gillian. Nick Place, fantastic. Lots and lots of people. Frank Lampard, Frank, fantastic to see you in. Single Malt Alliance, yeah, Mellocorn. Wow, that was a while ago that was talking about Mellocorn. Good to see you in, Ben. Good to welcome you back again. And yes, the chat is moving fast. That if I try to scroll up, it bounces down, and I miss you. Alan McDonough is saying he's in. Well, nice to welcome you, Alan. And Sydney Stratton, another new name. Although he is saying hello again, so I apologise if I've seen and welcomed you before and just forgotten you. But certainly, regardless, I welcome you tonight, Sydney. Fantastic to see you in. So let me make a confession as I welcome in Chris Banks Wildlife as well. Good to see you, Chris. Good to see you back again. of something that happened recently, and I'm mightily embarrassed about this, but I can understand why it happened. I understand how I made this mistake. And I'll share it with you as I pour into a clean glass this dram that I received from my friend Rombout, who you know on social media as iLaddie, who's a self-confessed whiskey geek, a huge whiskey fan, a big fan of Bruichladdich in particular, and a really nice guy as well. And he sent me a blind tasting glass, one of these blue glasses, which is really super cool. And he sent me this Dutch single malt, which I haven't done any research on, Rombout. I really don't know it. It's called Den Hoel. It's a 6-year-old. And I think the expression is Wienhaar 2010. And he's signed it. There isn't an ABV on it, but I've taken a wee sip out of this, but I took a sip out when I first got it. I've had nothing since. Whiskey Throttle is saying you can pop up just the participants list so you don't have to watch all the comments when you're doing your shoutouts. You're absolutely right. That's true. You can do that. But I am of the impression, I suppose it's the same thing, that you only get the participants that are listed are only the ones that are chatting. It's not actually everyone that's watching. But regardless, it's a good idea. For example, I can see a Pudigist is in. I'd missed him. Connor Strang, nice to welcome you in here again, Connor. Connor is now actually coming in live tonight from the Caribbean. He's at the Foursquare Distillery out there just now, so it's fantastic. He's been able to get a Wi-Fi signal and join. I guess you're probably 5 or 6 hours behind as well. Loch Ness is good, or is it Loch Ness or Loch Ness or Loch? I say Loch Ness. It's fantastic to welcome you in. I see you around. I see you in a lot of different streams and places. This could be the first time you've been here, and I apologize if it's not. In fact, no, I'm certain it's not. Reb is in, Reb Mordecai. Fantastic to welcome you. And the Whiskey Dram is in as well. Fantastic. Tom R, my friend, great to see you. Superb. So yeah, the participants are there, and I can see Andy, our baggy, has just dropped in as well. Andy, fantastic to see you. And it might be an easier way to do it, Whiskey Throttle. So I appreciate that. That's fantastic. And I've had a contribution in from my friend Rolf. And is that Norwegian krona, Rolf? Is that the currency? He's saying, this is a virtual sample from my open bottle of Longrow Malbec. That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. I've only ever had bar pours of the Malbec, and I can still remember what it tastes like. I've got the Cabernet Franc downstairs, which is absolutely fantastic as well. I have the feeling that my memory of the Malbec is that it's better, but I don't think there's much in it at all. And he's saying, sorry, that was cruel, maybe. Not at all. Absolutely not at all, Rolf. Whiskey Wolf, thank you very, very much for your contribution. Superb. And let me get on to making my little confession. So a couple of weeks ago, I got a call from the BBC and an opportunity to go along on a radio show and to convince a local Edinburgh dad to get into whiskey. An Edinburgh dad who was a self-proclaimed whiskey phobe. Somebody who didn't really like whiskey, only took whiskey when it was forced upon him, didn't really understand it, and was actually a wee bit intimidated by it. Didn't really. So the idea was to go on to this BBC kitchen cafe. It was a cooking show, cooking with whiskey, to celebrate the Speyside Festival, and to try and convert, using some kind of whiskey evangelism, trying to convert this Edinburgh dad to like whiskey. And I went along. I was really excited about that opportunity. It was fantastic. It was hosted by the chef Neil Forbes. All very, very cool. And it was just a pure coincidence. The last live I did, you might remember, I did that very theme, and it came about at the same time. I don't know if they'd seen that, or if that's what's prompted them to invite me to do that particular theme. But regardless, that's how the conversation went, and that's what I ended up doing. So I went along to the BBC, did this show, and it was great fun, and I came away having just a great buzz and really looking forward to the actual edited show coming out, and that happened today. That edited show came out today, and I was sitting here in this very seat. I was working today, and I was listening to it coming out of the speaker up there, and I listened to this show, and I said, that Glendronach is a Speyside whiskey. And I was not aware of saying it during the recording. I was not aware at the time. It must have been a combination of I know why I said it, because I decided to switch up the selection of whiskies from what I had on the live, which did involve the Glendronach, and put in a Glenfarclas there. But the Glenfarclas I had, it was an extreme example of a sherry style, was higher ABV. It was a cask strength Glenfarclas. It was the festival edition, and I said, well, I can't take that. It's too high ABV. You know, it has, for beginners, it has to be, by my own advice, it has to be lower ABV for a beginner. Andrew has just sent a donation. Wonderful, Andrew. Thank you very, very much. He's saying, getting a sample from my Springbank collection to Scotland is too hard, Roy. We can call this the Hazelburn 13 Oloroso. Oh, fantastic. Andrew, thank you very, very much. And if there's any way, if I ever hear of anybody traveling to Australia or something like that, I'll keep you in mind, and they can maybe pocket a little sample. And when they get back, they can ship it to you. And that way we're not breaking any laws or doing anything illegal. Fantastic. So yeah, I had to, in the morning when I was getting ready to leave, I changed my mind. I did a 180-degree turn. I didn't know what I was thinking about. I went back in to try and find a Speyside, because it was to celebrate the Speyside festival. So I wanted to find a Speyside whiskey that was also an extreme example of a sherried style. And I decided, no, I'm just going to go with the Glendronach. It doesn't matter. I'll go with the Glendronach. It's a perfect example. It's what I used on the live. Just go with it. And I turned up and we're doing the recording. And I guess I still had the whole kind of Speyside festival thing in my head. I don't even remember saying the words, but I said that Glendronach was a Speyside. So I'm sitting here listening to it, and as soon as I said it, there was just like this, my blood just ran ice cold, like acid cold. I just get such a fright. I went, no. But of course it's live. It's out there. It's on BBC Radio. It's kind of, other than that, it went fantastically well. I was really pleased with it. I wasn't too nervous. I came across okay. I think everything else was great. And I convinced the dad, who is quite happy to walk off into his local bar and things like that and ask for whiskies. And he's kind of got an idea what kind of whiskies that he likes. So I was successful in that sense. But I do have this, I'm really, really gutted about that blunderous mistake. But hey, it could happen to anyone, right? Tell me so. But despite that, it was a really, really cool thing to do. Rasta is saying, oh man, we forgive you. Thank you very, very much, Rasta. And Rombout is saying, details of the dram are in Twitter PM. So I would just need to grab my phone, which is down there on Do Not Disturb, in the wall charging. I guess I could get it here. Actually, I could get Twitter here. I could. So this Dutch 6-year-old smells quite rich, and it doesn't smell young at all. I wonder what ABV it is. I can see there's a message in here from Twitter, and he's saying, Den Hoel, Wienhaar 2010 from the Zudam Distillery. That's the same guys that do the Millstone then, right? Which was probably is that the only distillery you guys have? Or malt distillery? 6 years old, bottled April 2016, 46% ABV. Only 1,120 bottles. Wow, this is quite an exclusive thing. 3 casks, New American Oak. Yeah, I'll buy that. First refill bourbon and PX sherry. And he's saying he has more than one distillery, and it is the same as Millstone. And am I pronouncing that right? Zudam Distillery. That Millstone, I've tried that Millstone, and it was absolutely fantastic. I was just absolutely blown away by how good a whiskey that was. And this is very, very promising as well on the nose. Travis, Let's Drink Whiskey, is saying, it's my last night visiting my friends and they just got home, so I'll have to catch the rest of this on the replay. Fantastic to have you in, Travis. Go and welcome your friends. See if you can get some whiskey into them and maybe get them to join in as well. Thank you for joining. Scott is saying, Aqvavitae, don't worry about it, mate. I watched myself back on your Ralphie stream and I had to watch it from behind the sofa. I know exactly where you're coming from, Scott. I'll confess that when I watch back these live streams, and I especially like watching back the live streams now because we've got the top chat and the live chat replay, So I can pick up all the chat that I've missed while I was hosting the thing and talking so much. But I mute myself. I just mute my own voice. I just can't. I'm really, really super appreciative that you guys can sit listening to my voice for that length of time. And I think that's normal. I think most people kind of feel like that they're just they're a wee bit uncomfortable about hearing their own voice. And you know what we mean to say, and how we say what we mean to say is not always the way that we actually say it. And that's uncomfortable to witness, right? And it happens to me quite a lot. Whiskey Throttle Daniel is saying he was talking about Zudam Millstone on the same live show. I don't really know much about it, and the only other one that I tried was at the Glasgow Old and Rare show. Did a blind tasting, and the Millstone was one of the top end whiskies that they put into that blind tasting. It was really good. It went down very, very well. I don't remember the exact expression, but I remember when I published it in social media. Maybe Rombout, you were even one of the guys who commented that that's like the Dutch whiskey to be able to try. Willie Dolier is in. Willie, fantastic to see you. Mrs. D sends her compliments, says you came over very well on radio. That's fantastic that you listened in, Willie. Yeah, I'm not disappointed with how I came across. I'm very, very disappointed that I could make such a blunder, but hey ho. Okay, Malt Chronicles is giving me a phonetic pronunciation for Soutdam. 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 Okay. Thanks for that, Malt Chronicles. Yeah, Dutch is not something I'm particularly good at. I'm not particularly good at pronouncing anything. And if I make a confession about the pronunciation videos I do, I've got to practice very, very hard for some of those as well. It's kind of tricky sometimes when you don't know. I think if I see Spanish words now, I'm pretty good at being able to pronounce Spanish words because I've got a reasonable handle on that. But Spanish and English is where it ends for me. And most whiskey names now, after the amount of research I've done for the pronunciation videos. Welsh is saying it's also our physical behavior. It's making me realize how excellent Ralphie is. Yeah, see, when you witness yourself on video and realize how you're animated and how you move and the little quirks that you have and things like that. Yeah, I'm really conscious of that now, and I kind of had to just make an effort to go over it. You know, people have had to be exposed to me face to face for years. They know how I look, they know how I sound, they know how I'm animated, how I move and things like that, and they seem to be okay with it. So I just have to carry the same thing on video. I don't kind of want to try to change it so much. Malt Chronicles and Rombout are saying that I got that pronunciation right. Superb. Oliver, fantastic to welcome you in again. The UI sound is closest to the ow in cow. Zoudam. Zoutdam. Not quite, but a good example. Wow. Oliver, where are you? I'd asked you in the past before, and I know that I'd guessed that you were in Wales. And I know that you probably answered at that time, and I apologise for forgetting. It's also pretty hard to put Dutch words through Scottish phonetics. Yeah, my accent and the way I handle vowels is different from, I guess, a regular English speaker. I expect a perfect show from you every time, Roy. Apu, you're absolutely right. I have to do better. I do. So that was my disaster of the week. But despite it being a disaster, it was still an awesome, fun thing to do. It was awesome to see the process that they go through. It was awesome, especially for me creating content for YouTube when I do kind of pre-recorded things, which I know has been a while, but to see how you record this in the first instance in order to make your life easier when you come to edit it later, that was super interesting. And the way that they do things and the way that the little tricks and things that they've got in order to, if they have to do these edits, that they've got multiple ways that they could put it together. And that's kind of the producer's job. He's just sitting back there really listening to this. And I don't think he's always listening to the exact spirit of the conversation. He's not listening to the details of the conversation. He's listening to the pitch and the tone, and he's listening to try and make sure that people have completed what they're supposed to say, and queuing them up to finish what they were meant to say, to make their point if they haven't. Although I did notice at one point I started to talk about price in the radio show, and I never got a chance to finish that. But that doesn't really matter because the point was still made. Everyone is saying public speaking is a skill like any other. I wouldn't consider this public speaking. I feel far more comfortable speaking to you guys through this camera, you know, where you're once removed, than I think I would if there was, like, I don't know how many of you are watching me right now. I don't want to talk about this all night, but there's 85 of you in just now. So I guess that if there was 85 of you in the room, I would find that a lot more intimidating than this. But I get your point. Absolutely. It needs to be practiced and honed. Your channel has likely prepared you better than most. Soon will be a celebrity. I don't know about that, but I definitely agree that it has made me perhaps less intimidated to do things like to go on that BBC radio show, which I felt really quite comfortable with. Mike is saying, how much pressure did you feel on the radio show to try to help the whiskey phobe change his mind about whiskey? Well, I met the guy before we started recording, obviously, spoke to him for just a minute or two, and I got the impression he was a really nice guy, and you know, he's quite laid back and things like that. And before we started recording, I said, look, if I'm confronted with somebody who just does not like whiskey, does not want to like whiskey, and has no interest in whiskey, then there is no point in me talking to them at all. There's certainly no point in me wasting good whiskey on them, and that's just a waste of everyone's time. But if somebody is at least curious, and if they have just ever so slightly, they're open-minded, and they're willing to hear, and they're willing to try, then it's worthwhile to kind of go ahead and talk to them about it. And I picked up immediately that he actually wanted to like whiskey somewhere. He just found that he hadn't got that hook yet. There wasn't that thing that had drawn him in, that had made him feel comfortable in that environment. It's excellent. This is excellent rum bout. Really delicious, really rich. Lots and lots of vanillas. Really fudgy toffee vanillas. Not getting any of the Pedro Jimenez yet. Really good whiskey. For a 6-year-old whiskey, it's incredible, actually. Incredible. I think if I was guessing this blind, I would pitch this in the teens, 12 plus. I mean, really, it's that rounded. It's really quite rich. Really quite a nice whiskey. Fantastic. I mean, this is an exclusive expression, I know that, but are these expensive whiskies when they're released? Rasta is saying, imagine us all sitting in our underwear. That's the trick, right? Horrifying. Exactly. Well, the thing is, in this medium, I think that I think that you could be sitting there in your underwear, right? It's easy to me imagine. I mean, you're all sitting there in your house. For all you know, I could be sitting here in my underwear. That's even more horrifying. I've got some messages through from a whiskey rev as well. Dwayne is saying, Aqvavitae, my flight from Dublin arrived in Indianapolis last night, and I drove home this morning. Wow, Dwayne, you must be tired. I hope you're rested now. Fritz and I were here before. Okay. Yes, I apologize for that. I've never, and if I have spotted you before, I might even have acknowledged you before, but my short-term memory is not what it once was. Connor Strang is saying Glendronach is Speyside. I think if Glendronach wanted to refer to themselves as Speyside, I think it could be much in the same way that Dalwhinnie could, or a few other distilleries up there could theoretically say that they're Speyside. Actually, you know what? I'm going to check. Is Glendronach actually a Speyside? No, it's not. It's near Aberdeen, right? So it's East Highlands. Glendronach. right? It's saying Region District Highlands. It says Highlands here. Does it say? And Glenburgie, it's saying Speyside. So it does. Glenallachie is Speyside. So this book is saying Highlands. But in my head, Connor, there is something. No. Everyone chime in. I think that Glendronach. In my head, there's something where there's been a discussion about this in the past. But in my head, Glendronach is a Highland. Let's see what else the Rev has sent to us. And Charles McLean, Wikipedia, Glendronach is listed as a Speyside, but in spirit of place, he has it as East Highlands. Yes. So there might be a bit of controversy there where perhaps there's been a time in Glendronach's life that it's referred to itself as a Speysider, like some of them do. And other times it's chosen to categorise itself as a Highlander. Laura is saying, Laura McGirt, that's a new name. Laura, it's nice to welcome you in. It's saying, speaking of Speysides, I am sampling a Glenmurray 12-year-old. Yummy. Fantastic. Glenmurray is, I think, Ralphie doesn't seem to like Glenmurray for some reason. And I think he picks up a certain trait or flavour in Glenmurray that he doesn't particularly enjoy. But I have often very much enjoyed Glenmurrays. I did a sample exchange with somebody from Elgin who is a big Glenmurray fan, obviously living just across from the distillery probably. And he sent me down a lot of kind of distillery exclusive samples. And they were all absolutely delicious. They were fantastic to taste. Chris Banks Wildlife is saying, my wife says you have a nice voice. Fantastic, Chris. Tell your wife I said thank you very much. Mikey Hay is saying how much pressure. I did pick that one up. And Bob is in. I think you've got the perfect face for Radio Roy. Bob, you're a star. Thank you so much for saying so. What a nice compliment to pay. Were you in earlier, Bob, when I thanked you from the heart for this fantastic bottle of whiskey? You'll see I did take the top off of this. I couldn't hold my water. I wanted to try it, and it was absolutely sublime. It was one of those ones, I came in the house and went to bed after the whiskey club that night, and I didn't want to brush my teeth because the flavour of this was so good. Thank you so much for this, Bob. And it's you giving me that sample, actually, was one of the inspirations for the theme tonight. So if any of you are sipping a sample that somebody has exchanged with you and you want to give them a shout out, make the comment at Aqvavitae and at the Whiskey Rev. If you get the Whiskies at Rev's attention as well, you double your chance of me being able to give the person who's given you that sample a shout out for their kindness. And also let us know what you're drinking as well and what you actually think of it. That would be kind of cool. Whiskey Throttle is saying you need someone like Scott from STDs to keep you on track. I have Julia. You do have Julia. I have the Whiskey Rev, but he's often remote and far away. And yeah, it's kind of good to have someone else there just to kind of bounce things off and keep me on track and things like that. But I'm getting feedback that I seem to be talking enough for two people most of the time. Robert, this is delicious. I'm glad tonight is not a dry night. Everyone is saying use the force, Roy. Yeah, fantastic. So there we go. That's me confessed to you that, and I mean, I think what I'm going to do is I might even link underneath this video after the event. I might put a link to the broadcast because I appreciate a lot of you can't get, even with digital radio now. I think you might have difficulty with BBC broadcasts, but I think I'll try and share the broadcast with you so that you can hear it if you're at all interested. John Belushi, my friend, fantastic to welcome you in. It's good to see you in again. You have some Mount Gate, etc. You're talking about rums there, I guess. And he's saying hello to everyone. John, it's great to have you in again. And my friend Roy is in, who was at the Whiskey Club with me on Tuesday night this week, is saying he's opened a sample from Bob at Glasgow Whiskey Club. He called the single cask Port Soioli. His code name for 5-year-old Glenglassaugh Oloroso sherry cask. An awesome Glenglassaugh. Fantastic. So, Bob, you were a generous guy at the Whiskey Club. on Tuesday night. That's fantastic. And Roy, there was something you must. I know that you've done a few sample exchanges, and I noticed that you commented on the Instagram post today. So, have you got a few samples there that's collecting dust? Are you cracking open some samples tonight? Is it just Bob's sample you're opening up? You know what? What are we? I've Whiskey Throttle saying longest confession ever. Yeah, I do. I like to string things out. Daniel, you're picking that up, right? So let me know what you're opening, Roy, and let me know what you think of them, and tell me if you can remember who actually gave you the samples. Also, later, obviously we'll be doing the quiz. The quiz is already prepared. Some of the questions in there are from the Whiskey Rev, of course. Start putting your names forward for the quiz. I'm quite happy to have the usual guys putting their names forward, the guys who do very, very well, the Connors, Hoagie Bears, Sid, anybody who's done it before. By all means, you're welcome to come in and participate again. But it'd be nice to have somebody. It was interesting last time around that Sid just decided to kind of pluck up the courage to do the quiz. And it's not like you have to appear live. I'm just going to take your scores from the crowd. And he actually quite enjoyed it, I think. And he did very, very well in the end. And tonight just might be your night. Not all the questions are particularly easy, but there are some fairly giveaway ones. So if you want to participate in the quiz and you are going to be here up until about, I guess, the quiz would kick off in about 15, 20 minutes or so, please put your name forward, let the Whiskey Rev know, let me know, and participate. I'd love to have you joining in the quiz. The Whiskey Rev, Aqvavitae, might be a personal question, a bit invasive maybe. Okay, Malt Chronicles. But how many dry nights a week do you hold yourself to? I figure spontaneity, indulging, is part of the whiskey fun. I have to make a confession that the Whiskey Rev is much better at me, I would guess, at this. But I don't hold myself to any dry nights. That's not to say I don't have any dry nights. I would say in an average week I have maybe, the minimum I would have is maybe 2. Like last night, for example, and on Monday night. We had a very, very busy weekend with a lot of people coming and going in the house, and Spanish visitors and things, and they come in and they see the whiskey in the cabinet and they go, oh, whiskey, and before you know it, after dinner we've got the whiskies out and we're sharing and things. So that happened at the weekend. So Monday night I had a dry night, a whiskey club on Tuesday. Wednesday night was last night. I had no whiskey last night. But I think in future I would like to kind of up that. I would kind of like to ring fence maybe 3 night minimum or something like that. But you're absolutely right, Malt Chronicles, is that you do just, that spontaneity thing is there, and you're just sitting on the couch, you're enjoying a TV show or something, you've got a whiskey there that you're keen to try, maybe a sample that somebody's given you, right? And it's just kind of, it's not a lot of liquid, but I guess it is a lot of alcohol. And if you count up the amount of drams you have in a week, I was doing a very rough thing. I was leaving my dirty Glencairn glasses tucked in the corner of the kitchen. And if I did that over a week, I could look and see how many drams I'd had that week. And it was quite telling, because in weeks that I wasn't having a lot of traffic coming into the house, maybe I wasn't having Whiskey Wednesday, there was still probably 10 or a dozen glasses before my wife finally lost patience with me and ordered me to clean them up. So that was kind of, I was using that. But sometimes you might refill the same Glencairn glass. So I don't think it's certainly not a reliable way to monitor what you're drinking. I don't really want to monitor what I'm drinking. I'd rather just go with my gut on it just now. But certainly I think we need to be conscious of it. We need to be aware of it. And as much for the enjoyment of the whiskey as for our own health. It's not a personal question at all, Malt Chronicles. I don't consider that. I think it's a fair enough question. What about you guys? How many nights a week are you very, very good? I know a lot of you, a couple of you actually, are in here tonight having dry nights. Danny is saying he's been dry for 2 weeks. Is that something you're actively trying, Dan? Nice to welcome you in. I've just realised that you're in. Is that something that you're actively trying, or is there a work thing going on? I mean, what's causing you to be dry for 2 weeks, Dan? That's heavy going, man. I hope you're getting something out of it. Vin from No Nonsense Whiskey's in. Fantastic to welcome you, Vin. Good to see you in, my friend. What are you drinking tonight, Vin? You've got a fair wee sample collection going on. Have you cracked out any of those? Or are you having another dry night? Come summertime as well, I tend to kind of move away from whiskey a wee bit just because of the weather. I think climate. I don't know. I drink less whiskey in the summer, and I usually take a bit of a break when I feel a bit whiskied out in summertime. But that's probably going to happen with this show as well, with the live streams, is that I'll take a break in summer, maybe July into August, where I just won't do any lives and kind of just take a bit of a break and a recharge. So, there's different ways of doing it. You can either do it weekly, you can do it more occasionally, more sporadically, or you can take a kind of chunk in the year. But when I talk about my chunk, it doesn't necessarily mean an entire kind of few weeks of no whiskey. It's just a few weeks of much, much less whiskey. And Vin is saying he just grabs a dram whenever he feels like it. Some nights he just doesn't fancy it. That's absolutely right. Some nights you just don't fancy it. Some nights you just want a cup of tea, a cold beer. I don't know. I tend to find when I'm having spicy food, I need a cold beer, or I need a lot of water or something. I know a lot of people like a whiskey with spicy food, but not so much for me. Ralphie did a good thing, Scott is saying, Kilted Moose. Ralphie did a good thing about how much he was drinking by filling up an empty bottle for every dram he had. Wow. That is a cool thing to do. What did he fill it up with? I don't remember seeing that thing. I don't remember seeing that, Scott. Colorless Blue Things is saying, I do it the other way. I try not to drink more than 3 or 4 nights a week. Okay, I see. And Vin is saying, I have a Brewdog and some Infinity bottle. So you're drinking one of your own samples, I guess. Fantastic. Superb. So do we have anything in from... oh, here we go. Bob is saying, the sample Roy is mentioned is from the cask. Alec and John from the Whiskey Club had a lovely dram. I'll bring you one next club night. Well, now I'm in the position, Bob, where I need to try and come up with a sample that's going to match what you gave me on Tuesday night, which is going to be really, really tricky. But I'll try and bring you something nice, Bob. That'd be fantastic. Rombout is saying, I keep 5 nights a week dry. So you're only having drams on 2 nights a week. And one of the things about that is that, when whiskies are passion, when we like talking about whiskey, when we like sharing whiskey, when we like to build knowledge about whiskey, the inevitability of that is often sipping the whiskey and getting to know the whiskey. And if you're only having whiskey 1 or 2 nights a week, that's pretty tricky. It's going to take you a longer time to do it, because I can't imagine, Rombout, that you're keeping 5 nights dry and then you're binge drinking on 2 nights. Hopefully, when you do actually have your whiskey nights, you're obviously, I imagine you are keeping it quite in check. But it means that your whiskey experiences are then limited then to those 2 nights, and it limits what exposure you have to the whiskey. That's certainly what I've found. And I find a lot of time that when I've bought a few new bottles, the whiskey consumption goes up because you want to try the new stuff, don't you? And Saltire is saying, yeah, I had 9 drams this week. Not drinking tonight, though we'll have a few more on Saturday. Well, 9, we're already on Thursday night, so you're talking about 2 drams a night, and you're consciously taking a break. I don't know. I mean, I'm no expert on this. I don't know what the recommended practice would be, and I think everybody has to find what fits their lifestyle, what fits their gut, what fits their feeling, that kind of thing. I'm getting a lot of messages in from people outside of the lives. I'm getting people emailing me and things like that, and it's really cool. And I try to reply to all the messages. Sometimes I miss it. Sometimes I'm late. I apologize, but I'm getting better at it. More recently, I've been making more of an effort to just kind of reply and send out quick replies and thanks and things like that. But some of the messages I get are really quite cool. And what I thought I'd start to do is sharing some of the messages with you. The one I've got tonight is from my friend Erin McFault, who I think may still be in. And I'm hoping that it's okay to read out the message that I got from him, because it's kind of cool. It's kind of his story, how you get into whiskey and things like that. And I could certainly relate to it a little bit. And it was just a cool message to read. And I think when we were doing the beginners thing a couple of weeks ago, these are the kind of stories that I got in. And I know a couple of weeks ago there was a few I took down that I wanted to share, and I didn't get a chance to share them. But I thought it kind of gave me the idea that it'd be a good thing to just kind of. I find this interesting. I love to hear how people got into whiskey. I love to hear what fired them, what fired their passion, what made them not just kind of enjoy it as a drink, but really enjoy it as something to connect with and socialize with and do this kind of stuff with. So this is the message I got from Error. I hope he's okay with me reading this out. But he says, my whiskey journey started somewhere in 2012 or 2013 only, which I suppose makes me a whiskey toddler. At a party, someone offered me this Cavalan Solist Vino Barrique. Very nice whiskey to start with. Until then, I had always thought that whiskey was like vodka, something you would add to your cola if you wanted to get drunk fast. The cask strength burned my tongue and lips, but I was blown away by the taste. A week later, I bought a bottle. So, my first dram and bottle was not even Scotch, it was cask strength. NAS, and costed me around €100. And I was hooked. I sought advice from someone who had been into whiskey for a few decades and who introduced me to Benrinnes 15 Flora and Fauna and Kalila 12, my first peated, and I still much enjoy. Then I discovered Ralphie. Not much later, I randomly picked a Benriach from a supermarket shelf, and that was for me what you would call an epiphany whiskey. All of a sudden, I recognised it. All these layers of aromas just hit me in the face. It's still one of my favourite drams, and I am heartbroken that it has been discontinued. The Cavalan that started it all, I also still like, but since it literally more than doubled in price from one day to the next after winning some prize, I decided not to buy any Cavalan anymore. Anyway, here I am, 6 years later, supporting a guy who throws empty bottles into a bin. Life can be strange. So there you go. Fantastic. His first exposure, and in my experience, it's always been something with a hook. And I think there's a decent hook in that. My first Cavalan, together with the Whiskey Rev, actually buying a sample from Master of Malt, was actually the Vino Barrique as well. And I remember thinking it was a really good whiskey, but I can see how something as compelling and as rich as that. But of course, being a solist, being a single cask, it is very high ABV. So it's kind of cool, Error, that you were able to power past that and taste the flavours and then persist. But it's interesting that you just went into a supermarket and your epiphany whiskey, the one that kind of accelerated it all, was a supermarket whiskey, albeit a very good one in that Benriach 12. So I thought that was a really cool story. And it's also kind of cool to hear how you ended up, you know, hanging out with us on a Thursday night. And that was obviously through Ralphie. And I think Ralphie feeds a lot of the other channels. A lot of people are watching Ralphie, but because he's only putting out he's putting out 2 a week now, but he's essentially just cut his normal content into 2 to give 2 videos, which is a cool way of giving people the flexibility, right? But after they're watching Ralphie, they're thinking, well, is there more of this? And I think through the suggested videos, a lot of our channels are discovered on the back of Ralphie, which is kind of cool as well. It'd be interesting to hear how you discovered us. So thanks for that message, Aaron. And the people that are sending me these emails and things like that, I love to read them. I love to receive them. And if you are sending them in and you don't mind me sharing them, if you think that's okay, I would like to do that. Red Mordecai is saying, I used to only drink whiskey on the Jewish Sabbath every Friday night until Saturday evening. But since your live casks have been on, I pour a glass in your honour just to tell you what I'm drinking. Reb, that's fantastic, I hope. I hope I'm not encouraging you to drink to excess, but it's fine if you're sipping with me on a Thursday. For your time zone, it's into the Friday, right? So I don't feel too bad about that. And tell me what you're drinking tonight, Reb. And tell me if, I don't know, I think you probably have to leave a little bit earlier and you tend to catch the rest of the show on the replay. But if you're around for the quiz tonight, I've always suggested that you, Reb, would be a fantastic quiz participant. Dwayne is saying, Aqvavitae, I wanted to thank you again for the 2 samples that you gave me in Glasgow. Kleinleash 21-year-old and SMWS Linkwood 27-year-old. Yes, those 2 bottles were coming to the end of their life. They may appear on a recycled video soon. and they seemed perfect to kind of share with you as we passed each other. You're very welcome, Dwayne. Thank you. Eric is in. Eric, wait, welcome and fantastic to see you. He's saying, Aqvavitae, I'll be making my travel plans this weekend for flying to Scotland. Yes, I picked up somewhere you were speaking to somebody about that. I don't know if I interjected and said, tell me what your plans are, but you said I should be there June 16th to 30th. Certainly I'm in the country those weeks. Maybe we can say hello while I'm there. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll make an effort, Eric. That would be fantastic. Eric has his own channel. He's very into wine. He's now very much into whiskey as well. So, yeah, that would be fantastic, Eric, if we had the chance to hook up, shake hands, breathe the same air. And, you know, if the planets all align, we might even be able to share a dram or two. That would be an awesome opportunity. Paul Gibbs is saying, just got in. Fantastic, Paul. Nice to welcome you again, my friend. Got no samples. Don't worry about that, Paul. Do you have a dram in hand? I need to stop talking, finish this, and crack open one of my other samples. Everyone is saying, based on Ralphie and my Irish heritage, I just recently tried the Glendalough 13 Irish whiskey and was blown away by the quality. A few people have fed back to me that the Glendaloughs are good. I haven't tried them myself. Every bit as good as the Redbreast 12. Wow. If not a little better. I do like the Redbreast. And I recently tried the Redbreast Lustau as well, or Lustau, which I also felt was a damn good dram. Superb. Okay, where are we sitting? We have, thanks to you, you wonderful people. I don't feel I'm bringing any real content tonight. I'm just kind of winging it. I just, as I've said earlier, just kind of breaking open some samples and sharing them with you. There's a few here. I was hoping that Rob was going to pop in so that I could talk a little bit about the sample that he'd sent me. I've got a couple of samples here from the Scotch for Dummies. They sent me a Glendronach Revival. They sent me a Creative Whiskey Company, Lagavulin. They sent me a Glenmorangie Signet, wonderful, rich dram. Fantastic to have that. I have, what else do I have here? I have this Bunnahabhain, this is a Moyne, but it's the Moyne port pipe. I love the Moyne Oloroso. I've still got a little bit of that downstairs. Really curious to try this port version. This came to me through a guy in the Whiskey Club as well. I also have from Connor Strang here a Springbank 13-year-old sherry cask. They're fresh sherry bottling. One of the ones that was ultra fast at flying off the shelves. In fact, it didn't even make the shelves in Scotland. It was on allocation. From Connor as well, I still have, he's a Moyne Oloroso and another two, a Bunnahabhain, and I can't remember what the two green dots was now, Connor. I didn't label it, but it was recorded in video, so I could find out what that is. So I've got plenty to be getting on with, and I've got two samples here from a meetup I had in Edinburgh a couple of weeks back with the Malt Musketeers, who you can follow on Instagram. But they're just about to make a really quite exciting announcement, and they gave me a couple of samples in connection with that. I can't really speak too much about it just now. I don't have the green light from them. But they gave me a couple of samples that I'm super excited to break open and try from them as well. Superb. So what should I open up next after I've finished this delicious dram from Rombout? From the South Dam. Whiskey Throttle is saying, Aqvavitae, I will contact him to tell him to get his ass over here. Are you talking about our friend Rob? Good for you. If you can get Rob in, fantastic. But Rob usually drops in if he's free. He's another guy, I guess, a bit like you, Daniel. The time difference can be awkward. So yes, let us know, Whiskey Rev, if there is anybody who has put their name forward for the quiz. Alan McDonough is saying he's going for a Hibiki 12 now. And Hibiki is Speyside Roy. Cheeky bugger, Rev. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. What I was thinking of doing about the quiz it's difficult for me to ship alcohol outside of the UK. I think it's okay within Europe, with some exceptions, I think. But if I was sending a little bottle this size of something nice, or if I was shipping, not selling, sealed miniatures, it would be nice to kind of give out little prizes for the quiz to the winner. Maybe samples from my own collection, maybe things like minis and things that I have downstairs. I thought about doing that. The only difficulty I've found in the past, I have been able to ship very, very small amounts like this to the States as well, when it's alongside things like, for example, a T-shirt and bits and pieces, little gifts and things. I've been able to ship to the States, okay. But I've been able to get nothing through to Canada, except once I got a package through to FoodQuig, and I thought I was doing everything above board. But Canadian Customs burst open the packaging and inspected all the contents. But they eventually did deliver it through to FoodQuig, and he did get the package. Malted Montreal Swami, I wasn't as successful with him. I didn't get the package through to him. But I was thinking that a quiz prize might be a kind of cool thing to do. But the reason I've not done it before is I didn't want to bring any pressure to the quiz. I didn't want there to be a thing. I wanted to keep it fun. What's your thoughts? Do you actually care? Or would it be nice to kind of have, like, if I started to send out samples from my infinity bottle, or samples of kind of nice little curious bottles, or maybe SMWS expressions, things that are tricky to get a hold of. I don't know. It might be something to do. Go Habs is in. Fantastic to see you, Go Habs. He's saying Canada plays hardball. They are very draconian. They are very, very firm in their customs legislation. And Connor's saying the 2 green dots is a 44-year-old blend. I listed the contents and comments a few minutes ago, but forgot to tag you. Thank you very much. A 44-year-old blend. Wow, that's tempting. So maybe before I go on to the peated ones, Connor, would that be a good one to go for? What do we think here? What do we have? A 44-year-old blend. Wow. The 2 green dots. Daniel is saying, you can mail to me anytime. Those 2 guys are usual suspects. Yeah, we've got a little thing going, haven't we, Daniel? We've got a little arrangement where we can help each other out on that score, right? So we don't need to actually ship things across the ocean. We can just peer inside each other's collection, and we can get past the border control that way. What do you think, Daniel? Everyone is saying, Aqvavitae, too much work to send samples. Just announce your whiskey ahead of time, and some of us might be able to drink along with you. Well, yes, I did do that a couple of times, everyone, and I think it's a good thing to do. And I think that I might be tempted to do that in future when the theme supports it. You know, when I'm doing a kind of a bottle opening or something like that, I can tell you ahead of time. I think it's a good idea to do that. And some of you might actually have the whiskey or be able to pick up the whiskey and join in. Yeah, it might be quite cool. But yeah, sending samples in terms of sending samples out so that we can simultaneously taste them, that wouldn't really be my intention, everyone, if I'm honest. It would just be to kind of send out samples to say, you know, thanks for participating in the quiz. You know, here's a little token of appreciation, a little prize. Daniel is saying, and I'd just like to reinforce this, Daniel is making an announcement, which I understand completely. There is no whiskey in Alberta. There is no whiskey in Alberta. And any whiskey that is in Alberta has suddenly become very expensive. Is that right, Daniel? Okay, superb. So what other things did I have to talk about? I don't know if anybody's picked up in the news recently about what's happening on Islay, right? There was always 7 distilleries on Islay. Then along came Kilchoman, and there was 8 distilleries on Islay. Right now, the Ardnahoe is preparing to, or it might have already started to pour its first spirit. Certainly they're getting in shape in order to be able to start pouring spirit for the Facial Festival at the end of May. So that'll bring the count up to 9. Then we've got Gartbreck that looks like it might actually, although every day you hear a different story, but it looked like that Gartbreck might actually go ahead, and that's going to be up in Loch and Dal, a bit up on the opposite side from Ardnahoe, and quite a bit further north from Port Ellen side. But it looked like the Gartbreck thing might go ahead. So we could be at 10 distilleries. Now, in 2020, Diageo has committed to the investment in order to get Port Ellen up and running again by that year, by 2020. So that means that we're now at 11. And this week, Elixir Spirits held a meeting in Islay to reveal plans of another distillery down on Kildalton Road on the south side of the island. So, you know, alongside the big hitters of Lafroig, Lagavulin and Ardbeg. Theoretically, by 2021, 2022, if everything falls into place, there could be up to 12 distilleries on Islay when there were 7. When I visited Islay in 2010, Kilchoman was just a few years old, maybe 4 or 5 years old. That was my first time in Islay. They'd only just kind of released, they'd only had a couple of expressions out by that time. And the 7 distilleries were kind of stable and doing quite well. Thank you very, very much. Now, Islay cannot make enough whiskey. And thank God for Kalila. Kalila is producing 6 million litres of alcohol per year and keeping the world flowing, you know, keeping the Islay whiskey pouring for everybody. And literally that plant, that Kalila plant, not only makes fantastic whiskey, but really needs to be thanked for really what they're bringing to the table in terms of bringing Islay whiskey and availability of Islay whiskey. It's really quite amazing. But that's quite an amazing change to see Islay, a tiny little island of what is it, 2,500 people, going from 6, then 7 distilleries to 12 distilleries, and in a space of maybe 16 or 17 years, doubling the count. Now, they're not doubling the output because a lot of the distilleries that's opening aren't going to be, you know, producing millions of litres, certainly not at the get-go. But in terms of distillery count, that's going to be 12 distilleries. How's everyone feeling? Can that continue? Can that demand for the peaty whiskies continue, especially in the face of, you know, mainland whiskies are producing peated versions now more and more commonly all the time. I'm not talking about just the regular ones like Longrow always did, like Ardmore always did, but, you know, Benriach are doing it, Bulveni are doing it, you know, Ailsa Bay down in the lowlands are doing it. You know, every man and his dog are bringing out peated whiskies to try and fulfill the demand, you know, the appetite for what Islay has been pioneering. For those peated whiskies. Where is it all going to end? How's it going to keep going? WhiskyJason has said, quiz please. WhiskyJason, you're very, very welcome. That would be awesome for you to participate. And Gregor saying, got to go to another meeting. Watch on the replay live blind tasting where we all play along for one of your lives. Fantastic, Gregor. Thank you very much for joining in. And Whiskey Throttle is saying exactly, there is no whiskey in Alberta. Sorry to make that announcement. MacallanFine&Rare, fantastic to have you in. Well, what MacallanFine&Rare, here's a question to you. You're in Germany. WhiskyJason's in Germany. How do you feel about a wee head-to-head? A wee kind of Germany versus Germany head-to-head. Just throwing that out there. That might be quite cool. Dwayne is saying he's just back from Islay and he's saying Ardnahoe will open for visitors in late May per my visit to their shop while I was there last week. I wonder when they're pouring their first spirit, Dwayne. Did you get any intelligence on that as well? But it's crazy that we're potentially looking at 12 distilleries. Somebody mentioned Elixir there just a second ago. James Hope did. Is the plan for Elixir and the others to get malt from Port Ellen? Or with that reopening, are they going to have to start getting malt from elsewhere? Well, you know, not all the Islay distilleries on Islay get more malt from Port Ellen now. They can import malt from the mainland. And, you know, there is, on Islay, there's some kind of floor maltings and malting that goes on there, but it's only a very small percentage of what the requirement is. Port Ellen, again, make up the bulk of the supply there. But I assume that the business plan has that all very much factored in. Somebody, Apu, has had a comment. I'll just release that comment. Show. Oops, it says another moderator just handled this. Thank you very much, Whiskey Rev. Thank you. Malt Chronicles is saying you should get them to do Netherlands versus Germany. That's a good idea too. I'm up for that. WhiskyJason is saying he's up for that. So superb, fantastic. And MacallanFine&Rare is also up for that. Superb. I think it's getting to time for the quiz as well. There's a couple of wee subjects here. This, Connor, are you still in? This blend, this 44-year-old blend that I have to say there is a flavour from this, my friend, that I think it was also in a couple of other drams that you sent me. And it's a slightly kind of, I wonder what was in the box that you shipped these samples to me. Maybe I just like the other ones. I felt that the other ones got much better with a bit of air. I think what I maybe need to do is just let it breathe. Eric Waite, if he's in still, he was talking about a really interesting thing, something that intrigued me. When you're shipping alcohol, specifically to do with wine, I think in fortified wines and things like that, it can suffer from something called bottle shock, where if the transportation is handled badly, that it can really upset the composition and the makeup of the wine. It sounds crazy to me, it does, but apparently it's a real thing. Eric, if you're in, maybe you can chime in and suggest what is the nature of that, how does it manifest? But what we noticed is that there were some breakages, not of the bottles or the drams themselves, but of the packaging that you sent that to me in. And I wonder, was there anything that leaked, or was there anything that happened? Happy was saying that 44-year-old blend was on the latest Scotch whisky auctions. It went for £140. Wow, I should have bid on it. Yeah. So Connor's obviously shared already what the 44-year-old blend was. And the Rev is telling Mikey Hay that Kalila is 6.5 million litres it is. And thank goodness it is. Can you imagine? I mean, there are, Lagavulin, Bowmore, they're not small distilleries, right? I mean, Kilhoman's the smallest. They're not small, but Kalila is, consider how much single malt Kalila is going out there. Kalila is really with its capacity, it's able to bolster. With Bowmore as well. Bowmore do a decent job in terms of volume. They're really bolstering all that thirst there is for the peated malts that's used in all the blends. And we have to remember that 90% of the volume, almost 90% of the volume, that drives the market, that drives the whiskey demand in the whiskey market, is still very much for blends. So it's a very important thing for them to be able to have whiskey to do that. I was going to say 2.5 million for Lagavulin as well. Jason is in. Jason, good to welcome you again. Jason Klesholt, he's saying, okay, I can focus better now. My family left to go see a play. Pour yourself a dram, some comfortable slippers on your feet, kick back, and participate in the quiz, please, Jason. Everyone is saying he's headed home. We'll listen in the car. Feel free to share story of the package I sent you. Keep the stream going. Can't stop the signal. Okay. I don't like giving out my address. I'll make it. I don't. It's not that I'm precious. I think it's just common sense, isn't it? That it's wonderful hanging out with you guys. And as the weeks go on, I feel like I get to know you better and better. And I can certainly feel like I can trust you. The community, the sense of spirit that we've got is fantastic. But you always hear the stories, and I know that it's just not good practice to hand out your address until you've actually met people or you've gotten to know them sufficiently well. So I'm kind of cagey when people ask for sample exchanges. So what I tend to do is I offer it, to patrons and things like that. If they want to do sample exchanges, that's okay. People that I've gotten to know quite well, people that I've hung out with on private conversations, people I've met at festivals, whatever it may be, some way of getting to know them in a deeper way. But recently, everyone sent me a message and said, can I have your address? John Belushi is saying a P.O. box. Yeah, fantastic. But I know it's not the easiest thing to set up, and I haven't actually looked into it, but it might be a good idea, John. everyone sent me saying, look, you know, I'd like your address. Is that okay? And I was just kind of formulating how to politely say, yeah, we'll sort something out, and then go into what I've just explained to you. And then John is saying, I know where you are, Roy. And then he said, I'd like to send you some NASA swag. And I mean, I hadn't even read the end of the sentence, and I was already typing my address and sending it to him. And he sent through a bunch of really cool stuff. Actually, my kids have it. It was sitting here on my desk. He sent through really cool souvenirs, really cool kind of patches that the crew would wear, I guess. Mission patches, stickers, badges, little leaflets in literature, and a little pin of NASA, and a little notepad along with a business card and a little note from him as well. Now, I was excited about this. I thought it was quite cool. And as I was opening it, I was opening it at the dinner table. I came home late. I was opening it at the dinner table, and the kids were sitting at the dinner table, and I pulled out all this stuff. And they were just blown away, and they were like, oh, I wonder if he knows Tim Peake and things. And sure enough, one of the patches had Peake written on there, and the kids were doing a project at school, so they know all about Tim Peake and things like that. And it was just a super, super cool thing. So it doesn't always have to be samples that's exchanged through this spirit of community, this getting to know these people. You just kind of, I mean, I've been sent NASA swag. I mean, just how awesome is that? It's very, very cool. Maybe if you're in America, NASA isn't as cool, but I think to us here, certainly to me, NASA seems like a very cool, almost like an unreal thing that doesn't exist, that only really exists in movies. I've been in America a few times, but I've never been near any NASA sites. Daniel is saying, Aqvavitae, I thought you were a gypsy living in a caravan, traveling from still to still. Now, no, Daniel, but doesn't that sound like a fantastic idea? Really, living in a caravan, going from still to still. How would I fit that in with the family, though? That's the only thing I have to fathom there. Superb. So I think we have a quiz on the way. His address is Roy, Whiskey Dude, Scotland. Right. Yes, Whiskey Dude who thinks that Glendronach is a Speyside distillery. I mean, the point of what I did using Glendronach still very, very valid. I used the Glendronach as an extreme example of the style, much the same way as I did on the live 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, still not over it yet, am I? Okay, let's see what we have. Let's check in with the Whiskey Rev before we roll on. Wow, there's a lot of messages coming in. Sorry. WhiskyJason is saying a prize would be nice, but not really needed. I agree. I think what we'll maybe do is not have a prize every time, but I think occasionally if I have things that I can send easily and it's not going to cause anybody any trouble, it's not going to be, let's say, they're too extreme, the wrong side of the law, maybe we can consider it. Certainly, I think Hoagie and Connor have both scored 10 out of 10. They kind of deserve something, I feel. Everyone is saying too much work to send samples. I did pick that one up. And Alan Wilson is saying, send me all the samples you like. Of course, Alan. And Sid is saying, I think prizes should be backdated. Retrospective prizes, of course, for people who have been successful in the quiz before there were prizes. That makes sense. And James is saying, James Hope is saying he loves the quiz as samples would be very generous, but not absolutely necessary. I think I'm picking up in the spirit of people, if you pardon the pun. And Raster is saying samples sound great. I think folk who take the quiz are brave. Raster, didn't you take the quiz? But you're absolutely right. They are brave. And the quiz couldn't exist unless people were willing to take it, right? I can't quiz myself. And Daydreaming Andrews, I like the idea of a prizeless quiz. That was the kind of way that I'd always pitched it, because, you know, I always wanted it just to be fun. I didn't want it to get serious. So I need to put some thought into that. Dwayne is saying Ardnahoe will open for visitors in late May. Yep, superb. And Reb is saying Kalila is having a brand new visitor centre built. About time too. Looking forward to visiting Isla again. Yeah, well, they're going to rebuild Kalila, Cardew, what's the other one? Clynelish and Glenkinchie, and as well as putting together £150 million Diageo are investing. I mean, that's just the biggest chunk of money I've seen invested in Scotch whisky since Macallan. And when Macallan was announced, it wasn't even as high as £150 million. I know it's probably cost a hell of a lot more than that now, but this is significant money that's going into whiskey in Scotland right now. It's just that everybody still seems to have this massive optimism that it's going to hold firm and hold strong. And that's very, very good. And as malt fans, I think we've just got to try and enjoy that as much as we can, all the while seeing prices increase and all the crazy stuff. But, you know, it is what it is, and we just have to try and work together to try and find where the bargains are, where the fun is, where the distilleries that are still under the radar, but in the ascendancy, where they are. You know, distilleries like the likes of Deanston, the likes of Benromac, so many distilleries that are producing good quality whiskies, trying to present them as best they can, trying to keep an eye on natural presentation. Again, Glen Loch Lomond, another two that have really turned things around as well. And through this community and communities like this, share that intelligence so that we can find the good stuff. Well, this is starting to taste really quite good now, Connor. Really nice. Malt Chronicles is saying, I don't like everyone going with Pete Way. It's becoming a gimmick. It's regional for a reason. Yeah, I mean, what we need to remember is that there would have been a time that pretty much all Highland distilleries, certainly all the remote ones, would have been peated as well. Obviously not now, because the infrastructure is in place for them to be able to use gas, but they would use electricity and steam and coal and any amount of other alternative fuels. But there would have been a time in a traditional sense that a lot of the Highland distilleries would have been very, very peaty and very smoky as well. But they wouldn't have used the peat from Islay, of course, where it might have been a bit more iodine, a bit more coastal, a bit more salty, I don't know. But it would have been peat local to them. But I get what you're saying. But it's just that you can't deny that there's a huge appetite for peated whiskies, and it's under pressure. Peated whiskies is becoming more and more expensive. James Hope is saying would be nice to see more locally grown malt being distilled on Islay. Absolutely, if they've got the resource, if they've got the space to grow it, if they can grow their barley locally, if they can get a bit more terroir going on and things like that, great. But honestly, I think that Islay probably can't grow enough barley to keep its distillery going. I haven't actually looked into that. It's just me speaking loudly, but it just would make sense. A lot of the land on Islay is peat bog, of course. John Belushi is saying, I watched your recycle video and used Google Earth to find you. I imagine that that's entirely possible. I actually discovered recently that on Apple Maps, they've got a 3D version and I can actually swipe around and look at my house on 3D. I thought that was really cool as well. But that's quite creepy, John. Thank you for that. Everyone is saying, just wanted to show my appreciation for what you do and wanted to do it in a unique way. Everyone, it was fantastic. I think I sent you photos of the kids' reactions when they were opening that little package. It was a very cool day. And John Paul van der Hoven is saying no prizes. John Paul, I hear you. Okay, let's go on with the quiz. I think MacallanFine&Rare and my friend Jason from Germany, if you are our participants, it's going to be quite easy for me tonight. Bedtime for me. Ed is saying, thanks for a splendid show, Roy. A pleasure as always. Again, it's been, I hope that you've enjoyed hanging out in the chat and talking to everyone, Ed. It's a pleasure to have you always. Thank you for just stopping by and indulging me in my monologue for the last hour and a half. Okay, quiz time. Let's check in with my friends WhiskyJason. Good and ready. the Whiskey Rev is on standby with me to try and help me pick up the quiz questions. Good night, Ed. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you in as well. And I'll just start these questions. Let's see if I can make this work. Now, you'll notice tonight that there are little stamps on the questions that have been contributed by the Whiskey Rev. A few of you have been asking which questions are yours, which questions are the Whiskey Rev, and we'll try it tonight, sharing those with you. Okay. I'm just looking for a thumbs up. Okay, but remember my delay. Do you have a delay, MacallanFine&Rare? Because that could be a problem for you. Malted Man Cave Keith has appeared. Fantastic to see you. Whiskey in the Six Rob has come in at the end, as well as Chris Santa Cruz, and fantastic to see you all in. Telex, I see that you're in as well. I don't know if I gave you a shout out earlier. I did spot you. I meant to. Fantastic to welcome you all in. It's obviously just getting that a little bit later in the States, so we're starting to see a bit more of my friends from that side of the world joining in as well. Fantastic. Still a lot of you in. We're just about to start the quiz, so I would expect to see the figures drop. If you've never tried the quiz before, stick around. See how you feel. See how you got on with it. Give yourself a personal... You don't have to share what you score, but you might find you do better than you imagined. Guys, I'm going to ask you to just wait for the 3, 2, 1. So, and I'll hit enter. So you all hit enter at the same time. I'm taking scores tonight from WhiskyJason. WhiskyJason has his own. He has 2 channels in Germany. He has a German-speaking channel where he does live streams, and as well as pre-recorded content. And he also has an English-speaking version as well. Very dedicated guy. I don't know how you do it, Jason, but it must take a fair amount of effort. And we have MacallanFine&Rare. Now, I think you've told me what your name is, MacallanFine&Rare, in the past, and I think I've forgotten. But that's okay. I'll refer to you as MacallanFine&Rare tonight, and we'll start up this quiz. Okay, here's question 1. Which country produces the 3 ships range of whiskey? Nice and easy one to start. Which country produces the 3 ships range of whiskey? Answer in 3, 2, 1, go. So I think 3 ships is a blend. I've never tried it. I'm not very familiar with it. It might be malt as well. I'm looking for answers from WhiskyJason and MacallanFine&Rare. I don't see yet. Okay, WhiskyJason has answered. I've got your answer in. MacallanFine&Rare, I've got your answer in as well. Lots and lots of people saying South Africa. Paul Gibbs, Scotland. Canada is Rolf is saying. WhiskyJason is saying. So you've answered Ireland, Bushmills, WhiskyJason. Michael Hay is saying South Africa. Malt Chronicles, South Africa. Jason is saying Scotland. MacallanFine&Rare has said South Africa. Let's have a wee look to see where the 3 ships range of whiskey is produced in South Africa. So we have a point for MacallanFine&Rare, and unfortunately, Jason, you answering Ireland, it's South Africa. Let's see who else got that right. Alan Wilson, Alan McDonough, Dwayne, Malted Montreal, Swami, good to see you in. Fantastic. Just in time to join the quiz. Swami, I'm sure you would have got that last question right. Give yourself a point to start and see how you score for the rest of the session. Great to welcome you in. I know it's just getting to that time where you can join now. WhiskyJason's just said steamship and having a laugh at himself. Fantastic. Okay, let's go on to question 2. This is a multiple choice question. It's an ABC. And you'll notice from the stamp here that it's a Whiskey Rev question. What's the maximum size of cask for maturing Scotch? Is it A, 550 litres, B, 700 litres, or C, 750 litres. So you can just put in A, B, or C. After 3, 2, 1, go ahead, give me your answers. What is the largest cask you can use to mature Scotch? A is 550 litres, B is 700 litres, and C is 550 litres. And they're pouring in. I've got an answer from WhiskyJason. Lots of people. Paul Gibbs, 700. John Belushi saying 750 C. James Hope is saying 700. Santa Cruz is saying C, 750. Ben Marmack, 700. Jason has obviously said 700 B. MacallanFine&Rare is saying B. Wow, it's just jumped so many answers at the same time. Lots of people, the consensus seems to think it's B. Metalman71 is in. Fantastic. He's answered B. Good to see you. The Maltland, good to see you, has answered B. Lots of people saying B, and both our participants are saying B, and we're saying that it is in fact B, 700 litres. Absolutely right. So I'm going to put you both down for a point. Well done, guys. As we move on to question 3, which is also a Whiskey Rev question. Which malt distillery is owned by independent bottler Gordon and MacPhail? So this is a malt distillery that's owned by independent bottler Gordon and MacPhail. They only own one distillery. So please give me your answers in 3, 2, 1, go. Roy Evans couldn't hold his water. He was jumping out with the answer of Ben Romack. Aku de Geest is saying Ben Romack as well. WhiskyJason is saying Ben Romack. Ben Marnock, Ben Romack. Sid Martin, MacallanFine&Rare, Ben Romack. Alan Wilson, Ben Romack, Ben Romack. But everybody's answering Ben Romack. John Paul van der Hoven is saying Ben Rinnes. Maltland is saying Ben Romack. John Pallister, Ben Romack. Well, I've got the answers from the participants, so we can click back and see. The malt distillery owned by independent bottler Gordon MacPhail is, in fact, of course, Ben Romack. Yes. Okay, superb. So you both get a point for that. I'm going to show you a pictorial question now. I hope you've got enough screen real estate to see this picture. It's a little small, a little pixelated, but I just want you to tell me what distillery uses this emblem or mascot. Oh, let me pause quickly. I've had a donation in from my friend Swami in Canada with the answer, Ben Romack, written in big letters as well. Swami, thank you very much. Cheers. I'll finish this glass of 44-year-old blend from my friend, a sample from Connor Strang. Thank you so much. Cheers, Swami. That's very nice of you, buddy. Thank you. I'm running out of clean glasses, so I'll give this a little rinse before I go on to question 4. And I'm going to pour, maybe pour one of these peated ones. Maybe this this little creative whiskey company, Lagavulin, from my friends at Scotch for Dummies. As we move into question 4, pour a little bit of this. Now, I've heard a lot about this. I've heard that it's really good. I'm excited to try this one. And you can tell me, where does this image appear? On what brand of single malt? 3, 2, 1, answer. It looks to me to be a Wildcat. My chat has stopped. I think I've still got a connection. I hope I have. Whiskey Tech, Telex, the Whiskey Tech is saying, that's a good one. You're lucky. I loved it. Certainly. Uh-oh, I think I've got a problem. I think I've got a feed problem. I hope you guys can hear me. I've got a warning here. Let me check the... No, it seems to be working okay now. I don't know if it paused there. I don't know if it hung for a second. I don't know what's happening. Is it clicked back to me yet? I couldn't get it off the other screen there. Apologies. Don't know what was happening. Okay, now it's come back to life. I don't know if there was an interruption in the connection. Maybe that was just at my side. Okay, it's all pouring in now. Everyone is answering Clynelish. Dwayne Large is saying Wolfburn. Connor is saying Clynelish and Brora. MacallanFine&Rare is saying Clynelish. Superb and WhiskyJason immediately afterwards is saying Clynelish. Ben is guessing Glenturret. And yes, that's Jan. Jan Frederick Leversund is saying Whiskas. Very good. I think everybody, said Martin, is saying Glentabby. Everybody has had the idea that it's Clynelish. So let's see if we can break this again. And in fact, it is Clynelish. And that is apparently the Duke of Sutherland, who was responsible for the heinous crimes during the Highland clearances, or responsible for some of the crimes. But they choose to use his emblem, his coat of arms, which features that wildcat, that Scottish wildcat. Okay, we'll move on to question 5 and ask you, not a Whiskey Rev question this time, which blend featuring a dog-themed label was once known as the House of Commons? I think this is tricky. It depends. Which blend featuring a dog-themed label? So we've gone from cats to dogs, was once known as House of Commons. I think this one could trip up some folk. Don't know. Aqvavitae, I feel the need for a spelling video after your pronunciation series. Hey, Era, good to see you in. I don't know if you'd disappeared out earlier, but I read out your little passage. I hope that was okay. Very nice message to receive from you. I thought I'd share it. It was a great story about how you got into whiskey and your experience with Cavallan and Benriach. Wow, a lot of these answers are being hidden. I've just released them. Some guesses coming in. WhiskyJason is guessing. He's admitting he doesn't know, and he's saying Scallywag. James Hope is saying black and white. Connor Strang saying is black and white. That's a guess from Connor by the looks of it. I'm looking for MacallanFine&Rare. He's had his comment hidden. I have to release that. And Whiskey Biker has had it hidden as well. I don't know why. What's offences about black and white? Why is that being held? Do you see that, Rev? You see that these comments are being hidden. John Pallister is saying black and white. He's had it hidden. Anyway, WhiskyJason has guessed Scallywag. Let's have a wee look. The blend that was previously known as House of Commons, featuring a dog-themed label, was black and white. And I've included a little image there for you to see. I think that's a Scottish Terrier and a West Highland Terrier on the label there. You don't see it very often anymore. I don't know if do they still sell that in the UK even. It's been a while since I've seen it. But yes, it was black and white is the blend. With the dog-themed label. So well done, MacallanFine&Rare. I know it was a guess. You put a question mark after it, I think. But yeah, you got that one right. Right now, we're sitting at a score of 5 out of 5 for MacallanFine&Rare and 3 out of 5 for Jason. So you're under a wee bit of pressure, Jason, but I'm sure you're gonna bring it together for the last few questions as we move into question 6, which is which Scottish distillery is famous for triple distillation? Now, of course, there are distilleries that do triple distillation. There are Hazelburn, for example, for down in Springbank, they triple distill. Benromac do a triple distilled version, but I'm talking about the distillery in Scotland that's very well known for triple distillation. In 3, 2, 1, please answer. Santa Cruz is saying Springbank. Yes, they do Hazelburn, which is triple distilled, but Hazelburn is not a distillery. It's not their thing. Everyone is answering now. Auchentoshan. Auchentoshan all the way down. WhiskyJason was very early in with Auchentoshan. MacallanFine&Rare also answered Auchentoshan. I think that was almost a giveaway question. John Paul van der Hoven, good man, is admitting that he didn't know. Malt Chronicles is pointing out, wait for the 1, 2, 3. Absolutely right. And the Whiskey Rev is saying, gonna have to make this harder. You might be right, Whiskey Rev. It's a crowd that we're attracting. I think that we're pointing very much towards the whiskey geeks, right? And these guys know this stuff. But yeah, maybe my questions are just a wee bit too soft. I need more contributions from you, Rev. Let's see what the answer is. The Scottish distillery, famous for triple distillation, is Auchentoshan. You both score a point there. Well done. As we move into question 7, which is, which month sees the start of the annual Fisheel Festival on Islay? In 3, 2, 1, go. Which month sees the Fisheel Islay Festival beginning? Month that it starts in, by the way. This is the festival on Islay that's just absolutely rammed. Islay barely holds together. The infrastructure, the accommodation, everything is absolutely chock-a-block for this week. People are sleeping in fields and all sorts, in cars and vans. It's just crazy time on Islay. Oops, I forgot to click it back to me. But a wonderful festival, and I'm managing to get there for a couple of days this year. Super excited about that. Everyone is answering May. Very few exceptions there. More importantly, MacallanFine&Rare, WhiskyJason, both right next to each other. On my stream, at least, they're next to each other. Both answering May. And, of course, the Islay Festival, the Fisheel Festival of Music and Malt, is indeed in May. So good. Another one each. Question 8, 3 questions left. I'm going to show you another picture now, and I'm just going to show you this picture and ask you to answer quickly what it is, what you think it's called. And I'm looking for a very specific name here. It's the most common name it's known as. Whiskey geeks tend to know that it's known as this. I'll show you the image now. Give you a very fast countdown to tell me what that is. 3, 2, 1. What is that in the picture? Interestingly, I can see here this says Auchentoshan. Doesn't really give you a clue. But have a look and tell me what you think that is. Some answers are coming in. Santa Cruz has said Thief. Whiskey Biker Valanche. James Hope Valanche. Eric Waite is Whiskey Thief. Connor Strang is Valanche. One Glassman Valanche. MacallanFine&Rare is saying Valanche. And WhiskyJason is saying Whiskey Thief. Okay, I'm going to put this one across to the Whiskey Rev. And the reason is that a Whiskey Thief tends to be known in Scotland as a copper dog. A Whiskey Thief is something that is fashioned out of a copper pipe in order to steal whiskey. And they would put a coin on the bottom of it or whatever, and they would just kind of... so they'd weld a coin onto it, and then they would just kind of pop it in, hold it, and they would steal whiskey using this copper pipe, and that was called a copper dog, and that was for stealing. But this is in fact a Valanche. A Valanche is the proper name because this is actually used to take cask samples. It's nothing to do with thievery. This is an official piece of kit. So Valanche was the word that I was asking for. Rev, would you... Can I pass this over to you? Would you give a point for somebody answering Whiskey Thief? If you could just type in a yes or a no into the direct chat with me or the main chat, whichever. I think a copper dog for stealing whiskey and all the various names that has, and a Valanche. I don't know. Okay. The Whiskey Rev is actually torn, and he thinks that it's worth a half a point. So, who answered Whiskey Thief? WhiskyJason said Whiskey Thief. So that means that, and by the way, this is, if somebody wants to kind of come back afterwards and say, no, you know, it's possible to call it a whiskey thief. It's referred to still to this day as the Valanche is also called a whiskey thief. Then, you know, I could retrospectively give you your half point back, Jason. But I think that's fair enough. The answer I was looking for was a Valanche. So as we move into the second last question, the Whiskey Dev is saying, don't want to seem mean. Maybe he's getting soft in his old age. Which range of independently bottled single malts has just been relaunched to celebrate its 50th anniversary? So there's a range of single malts from an independent bottlers, and this range has been going for 50 years, and it's just been relaunched in handsome new packaging. 3, 2, 1, tell me which independent bottler, which range has just been relaunched. A rose by any other name is still a rose, as the Whiskey Throttle is saying. I'll take half a point, Roy. Okay, all the answers are coming in. Superb. Whiskey Biker is saying Connoisseur's Choice. Metalman71 is saying Gordon MacPhail. James Hope is saying Connoisseur's Choice. Ben Mark is saying Gordon MacPhail. Connor Strang is saying Connoisseur's Choice. John Paul van der Hoven. Malt Chronicles is saying Connoisseur's Choice. And Eric is saying a Valanche, possibly from a Spanish term. Yes, I believe it's from a Spanish word, that's right. Is a name applied to a large copper pipette used to take cask samples from whiskey barrels. Yes, but what would we be calling a whiskey thief? Apart from me on occasion. This Lagavulin is so close to the 12-year-old. Really, really very reminiscent of last year's 12-year-old. Really delicious, fantastic. WhiskyJason has answered Connoisseur's Choice. MacallanFine&Rare has answered Connoisseur's Choice. One Glassman has admitted he doesn't know. Fantastic. Let's flick back, have a look. The range of independently bottled single malts that's been relaunched to celebrate is quite amazing. 50th anniversary is Gordon and MacPhail's Connoisseur's Choice. Now, in the past, that range has always seemed a wee bit under-marketed to me. I mean, it's been kind of endearing and nice, and but I always felt like it could really do better with a bit of a better presentation, because it had a little bit of a cheap feel to it. I always felt when I first got into whiskey, but then when you got to know the range, you realized that it wasn't cheap at all. It was very, very good, and it has to be celebrated for the fact 50 years. I mean, they were selling this Connoisseur's Choice as single malts before single malts was even a celebrated thing. They were really one of the flag bearers for single malt as a genre. They really were, Gordon MacPhail, and this was one of the ranges that did that. I'm just going to show you an image here of the new range that they've brought out. I think it's a damn good job. I think the bottle looks really kind of strong and purposeful. I think it's brings a bit of class, a bit of finesse to it. I think they've kept the open front and back of the cardboard tube so you can see the contents, you can see the colour of the whiskey. It's all naturally presented, as we know. I'm not very sure about the ABVs. I think they've probably keeping the ABVs at 43 most of the time, although not always. And Apu de Geest is asking me if I'm going to relaunch myself at 50. I think that's a great thing to do. Apu, don't you? It's a good idea. I just don't know how to go about it. And it's closer than I'm comfortable with, if I'm honest. Yep, they're saying it looks good. It looks cool. I think it is a big improvement, Ben Marnick. Absolutely. I think they're doing a good job there. I hope that it doesn't mean a price hike for us, but inevitably, just the way that whiskey's going just now, I think that it's likely. But Connoisseur's Choice has brought us some very, very good value drams in the past, and I certainly hope that continues. But they've announced this new... I haven't seen any on the shelf. I haven't touched it or held it myself yet, but it does look very cool. Let's go into the last question. We can say, what is the residue of the wash distillation called? This is a Whiskey Dev question. What is the residue of the wash distillation called? This is quite a tricky one, Rev. This might be the one where the wheels come off for MacallanFine&Rare. 3, 2, 1. Tell us, what is the residue of the wash distillation? Now, I want to distinguish between the wash still, not the spirit still. Okay, answers are pouring in. This is a good one. Oh, this is going to split people. MacallanFine&Rare has given us an answer, and some other people have the same answer. This is a good one. This is a good question, Rev. I think we need more questions from you. Lots of people are answering draft. WhiskyJason, being the gentleman that the guy absolutely is, has just confessed that he doesn't actually know. I knew this was going to be a tricky one. If you wind further up, we can see that MacallanFine&Rare has chosen to answer pot ale. A lot of people are answering draft. Apu is saying wine water. And Drew F64, I've not seen you in before, Drew, or have I? There was another Drew in last time. Was that you? Apologies. Nice to welcome you in again, regardless. Feels like he should know it. MacallanFine&Rare is saying spent wash, as well as, I think he's just covering his tail because he's already answered pot ale. Let's see what the answer is I was looking for. The residue of the wash distillation is commonly called pot ale. Now, I would have accepted burnt ale or spent wash or burnt wash or pot, whatever. But really, pot ale is what I was looking for. Draft is the residue from the fermentation, no? I think a lot of people answered draft, but pot ale was the answer I was looking for, is the residue from the wash still. So that means that MacallanFine&Rare has managed to score a magnificent, potentially prize-winning 10 out of 10. Fantastic. Really, really fantastic. Well done. WhiskyJason, you still had a very strong score. You scored, you failed to answer 1, 2, 3.5, 6.5, which is a clear, easy pass mark. I think on a normal night or on another night, Jason, you'd have scored much higher than that, but it's still a very, very respectable score. Fantastic job. Great effort by both of you. So that was a fantastic little head-to-head from two of our German followers. Cheers, guys. Very well done indeed. So let's talk about quickly what's coming up before we finish and wrap up the show. It'd be fantastic if I kept it within 2 hours this week, of course. Somebody's saying, good job, Mr. Waite. Did Eric get... okay, he's answering Marzipan. Let's see what's coming up. Eric, I'm not sure if you've got a live this week, but it's Thursday night, so normally after me, the Scotch 4 Dummies have a live show. They usually go live about 2 or 3 in the morning my time. I think it's 10 p.m. their time they go live. And this week, I think they're covering Glenmurray. Glenmurray is a very underrated distillery, in my view. I like a lot of stuff that comes out there. And this week, they're doing one of their budget entry-level versions where they do their sherry cask finish. So catch the Scotch 4 Dummies live later on tonight. And, of course, the Scotch Test Dummies have a live on Sunday night as well. I'm not sure if Malted Montreal is going live on Saturday this week. I don't know who else has got any lives coming up. My friend Malted Man Cave, Keith, has just contributed. Thank you very much, Keith. That's a wonderful gesture. Thank you so much. While I've still got some people in tonight, please consider jumping on right now and just giving this a little thumbs up at the bottom of the video if you can. I really appreciate it. It really helps me, and it helps keep YouTube and happy and things. If you've managed to get through another show, again, I thank you. Really, really, it's fantastic that you sit with me on a Thursday night. I really look forward to this, and I look forward to hanging out with you guys. One day we're going to have the opportunity to make this a real thing, and we're going to get to meet each other. Right now it has to just be kind of one by one dram at a time to get to meet you. Another contribution came in from John Paul Vanderhoven saying, thanks, Roy. John Paul, no, thank you very much for joining. We broke 100 quite easily tonight again. It's fantastic. It's just a great buzz, a great atmosphere. I know things are quieting down. I know as the light is staying with us a bit longer, we tend to move away from whiskey, but there's still a really good community building on YouTube. I want to keep doing things that will encourage that community to come and hang out and stick together. And I've enjoyed myself again tonight. Thank you all very much for joining in. Thanks to the Whiskey Rev. It's great to have him back again, helping out tonight and just feeding me the comments. A few came in. They are both saying Clynleash. Both Jason and Macallan got Clynleash. Did I think that one of them didn't get Clynleash? No, I think I gave them both a point for that, Rev. I'm sure I did. Fantastic. Another great night. Well inside 2 hours. Well, a couple of minutes inside 2 hours. I know there's a lot of things I've forgot to cover again, like I always do, but I feel like I've talked just about enough. I want to thank you all very, very much for joining me again. And I look forward to seeing you, which would be what's the second Thursday in May going to be? I think it's the 10th of May. That'll be my next live, the second Thursday in May. I'll be 1 year older by then. I've got a birthday to celebrate between now and then, as is the Whiskey Rev. We both have a birthday on the exact same day. So we'll both be a year older when we come back and join you on the 10th of May. But I look forward to seeing you then. And until next time, Slancheva, you're fantastic people. Cheers.